here, and this project has been going on for about 2 years of planning. It's been about 2 years of figuring out how we're going to fund what we want to do, and we finally finished it not too long ago. The project's finished. Today is a ribbon cut to say we're open, but we've been open. Mayor, I came out here and there were 35 bass boats out here fishing. So we have been open, but today, this is a day for me to say thank each of you for your contribution. Y'all, it's been fun to see how many people are willing to participate, whether by funding or time or. And I'm gonna tell you, we wore the Department of Conservation out. And Chris, thank you and Ed Poulis for all the work you did. I'm telling you, y'all went head and shoulders above what you should have done. Y'all, the marina is very important to Selma, Alabama. The river is very important to Selma, Alabama. Over 200 years, they founded our city where? On the Alabama River. Economically, it was important. It was a method to bring goods up and down the river, and economically today, it's just as important. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to say this. But now I'm going to be nice. But, you know, we've as the project got started, more and more people wanted to participate in what we're doing. Many of you know Big Daddy Lawler from down in Camden. He was instrumental in kind of navigating me through what goes on with ADM and with the Department of Conservation. And the methods of how we can get funding, because originally, we didn't have much money, and we didn't know how we were going to end up dredging this Marina Basin later. Many of you from Selma remember that it was kind of embarrassing, all the photos we saw on social media. People pushing boats out of the marina to get into the main channel. And people were complaining, and it looked bad on the city, and it looked bad in our community as a whole. So there was a group of people that got together and said, we need to do something, and we did, and we'll discuss that in the future. But I will say, Selma is the first of 2 different programs that you'll hear about today. It's always good to be the first in anything unless you're a pilgrim, because they normally the ones that have arrows in your back. So, but today it's good to be first on what we're going to celebrate today. The main hub of what we did was the dredging of the marina and putting in a docking system. People need to understand this is over a 60-year-old facility. So it has had a lot of wear and tear over the years. This is not a new facility project. So don't look around and say, well, boy, the ground looks pretty rough. This has been a working facility for many, many years. But today, we gave it a facelift, and when we open up the pavilion, we're going to put a cap on top of it. So at this time, I'm going to call on Commissioner Blankenship. And as he comes up, this is a great day for boaters. This is a great day for fishermen. And this is a great day for the transient boaters that we're hoping to come to Selma. We hope these guys come to Selma and see the rich history that we do have in this town. And Chris, Commissioner, I got to be a little more formal. Thank you for what you did for the community, and above all, thank you for your friendship.
Well, on behalf of my boss, Governor Kay Ivey, I'm excited to be in Selma today to celebrate the ribbon cutting here. I like groundbreakings. We go to a lot of those, but I sure like a ribbon cutting. If you're ribbon cutting, means you've accomplished something. You know, we've gotten over the finish line, and we're ready to celebrate the work that's gone on. And this project is really all about partnerships. This idea of the need here was brought to us by Tim Wood. Tim was going to be gracious and humble, and he won't say much about it, but we did a similar ribbon cut on a big project we did over in Demopolis a couple of years ago. Tim was there. He's on our Conservation Advisory Board. He attended that, representing the board at that ribbon cutting, and he said, we need to do something like this in Selma. We have a marina in Selma that needs some work. And I said, well, let's get to work on it then. That there was really no other location in this part of the Alabama River for mooring transient boats overnight. You know, that you leave Montgomery, and the next stop is really down at Roland Cooper State Park, where we did a similar project with the boating infrastructure grant several years ago, and there was really no place in between, and this was a great opportunity to do that. We needed a good ramp and a basin an access dredge for the docks to allow fishing tournaments and recreational boating. So like Tim said, I saw those same Facebook posts where people were launching their boats, getting out and having to drag it across the mouth here to get out in the main channel. And that wasn't good for Selma, it wasn't good for fishing in Alabama. You know, it something that needed to be done. And we all knew a project like this to expand outdoor recreation and economic opportunities in the Black Belt using outdoor recreation was needed. I will give credit where credit's due. The Deputy Commissioner Ed Poulos with the Department of Conservation, he took this on as a challenge to help get it done. He was, I can't say enough about his leadership and coordination on this throughout the whole project. He worked with ADM, with Fish and Wildlife Service, talking with AWF, Alabama Power, all the other partners on putting together the partnership along with Tim Wood to make this happen. And I appreciate his work on this and many other things that we have going on in the Department of Conservation. No one entity had enough at the time to do this project. It took coordination and pooling of funds to get us here today. Our wildlife and freshwater fishery staff engineer Todd Mize prepared the design for the ramp and the dredging and the floating dock and the permit application. We did the ESA work. The Department of Conservation had to dive and do mussel surveys and move any mussels that we found, endangered mussels, so that the project could take place. ADM worked with Fish and Wildlife Service on the boating infrastructure grant. You'll hear a little bit more about, a couple $100,000 from that. Selma and DCNR provided matching funds for the project. Department of Conservation, Governor Ivey, we have a statewide $20 million boating access infrastructure initiative underway. A lot of that project is funded through Innovate Alabama. The Innovate Alabama provided about $8 million to the Department of Conservation for us to build boat ramps or do boating access work all over the state. I see T.C. McLemore with Innovate Alabama here. Cynthia Crutchfield is the CEO. Bill Poole, Finance Director, is the Chairman of the Board. And I have the opportunity to serve as the Chairman of the Outdoor Rec Council. This is the first project that we've used any of those Innovate funds on a boat ramp in the state. This is the first one of hopefully many projects, but I'm excited that the first use of those funds was here in Selma. Department of Conservation funded the Coastal Alabama Partnership to conduct a study, to look at the Black Belt, to look at the opportunities in the Black Belt and how ecotourism and history, how we can capitalize on that as an economic development tool for the Black Belt. One of the main projects that came out of that report was using this ramp in Selma to be able to, as a jumping off point for the history of Selma, to transfer from here down to Old Cahaba, the first capital of Alabama, whether it's by boat trips or canoe kayak launch, to do some improvements there and the improvements here. And that was done while this project was already underway. And we already knew that it was a great project. Tim knew that this was a great thing. The mayor knew this was a great thing for the city of Selma and how we could use this for ecotourism. And that report really just solidified the importance of Selma and this marina and this boat ramp here. You'll hear from others about the Pavillion, the community impact, and the investments here. I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder because it was so many great partners that have worked together on this. But fishing, boating, tourism, history, and the quality of life are all improved by the great partnerships that are celebrated here today. Deputy Commissioner and I are thankful to work together with these fine folks to accomplish something of significance. And we look forward to replicating this in other places around the state with other opportunities to partner to do good work in the Black Belt and really all over the state of Alabama. So if you're here and you want to partner on something like this, we are all ears to listen. So thank you very much. Next up is my good friend Lance LaFleur, the Director of the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, and we have partnered on many things together, and that's just good government, isn't it, Lance? When two state agencies work together to do good things. So thank you.
Pleasure to be with you all this morning. Chris, thank you. Scott, thank you. Both the Tims, thank you. Mayor, thank you. There's a lot of folks that did a lot of work. Judge, thank you. People did a lot of work to make this happen. I'm the only one here with a tie on. That's because I'm old school. Now, I wasn't around when Selma was first settled, but 50 years ago, a little over 50 years ago, back in the early 70s, a buddy and I decided we wanted to go down to Mobile Bay. And we launched a boat a little upriver from here. And we had, it's a 19-foot boat. And we had extra gas and extra water and some refreshments in the cooler. A lot of crummy sandwiches. We got started out and it started to get dark after a while. So we stopped alongside the riverbank and we threw out a line and we tied up to a tree. But the only expectation of any entertainment was if some critter jumped in the boat that night or if a barge had come by and swamped us. But it would have been nice to have a place like this to stop. This would be a great place to stop. That's what this is. This is a transient boat facility. Now they'll use it for some other things. They'll probably do some bass fishing out of here, stuff like that. But that was our Black Belt adventure before that term started being used. Once again, this is over 50 years ago. But the Black Belt has had a lot of things going for it here lately. It's had its ups and downs in the past, but this is part of the Black Belt. You hear a lot about the hunting, fishing, and all of that, but the Alabama River is a tremendous, tremendous resource for this area. And I don't think it's had its due. I don't think it's reached its potential in the ability to draw people to this area. And I'm glad to see this. I am glad to see it. I have a lot of memories of this area. They still call it Little Miami with the sandbar. Yeah. I've been around here a little bit. A lot of good folks in this area. This can be a real asset, a real big piece of what's going on in the Black Belt. And Selma is, I see you're the jewel of the Black Belt, the jewel city of the Black Belt. Y'all are really doing some wonderful things here, and I have to tip my hat to the mayor. This is a wonderful place to be. It's becoming more wonderful. Now the work that I do, Chris gets to do all the stuff, riding around in canoes and going to state parks and having fish fries and stuff like that. The work that we do is right over here, this wastewater treatment plant is back over here. But that wastewater treatment plant, and it's a very well-run plant, by the way, has excess capacity. We did some work with optimizing some of the operations of the plant. But I can assure you, what's coming out of that wastewater treatment plant and being discharged is not adversely affecting the quality of this water. The water here, the water in this river is absolutely what it needs to be. It's meeting all water quality standards that have to be met. And that is if you didn't have that high quality water that you've got coming through there, people wouldn't come. There'd be no reason to come. This whole area is being well managed, and I want to tip my hat. Scott, how long have y'all been working with us on the boating infrastructure grant program? At least 10 years with Lynn Ford up here. He's been having it for 10 years. I asked him how long we've been working with y'all. He said, well, I've only been doing it 10 years, but it was around before I ever got here. So we treasure that relationship. We treasure that relationship. Conservation, we work with them, as Chris has said, on lots of projects. We have done a number of things. How many of y'all have driven down the interstate and seen the signs that say you're entering the whatever watershed, the Coosa, the Calapoosa, what have you, and you see underneath there it says help protect our waters? That's a program that we worked on with ALDOT. We also have a trash-free waters program. We are working to remove litter from the equation in all of this. When people throw stuff out their window along the interstate, eventually that washes down into a river. like the Alabama River. We want people to understand that litter has consequences. And we want people to become, it's sort of like putting your seatbelt on. Having people not smoke anymore. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. Get rid of litter. And you'll see more of those signs. We've been working a lot of things. But Chris told me I had only 45 minutes to speak. I'm going to have to limit it to 5 minutes because you got a lot of good folks coming up to talk. Thank you all so much for being here. It has been our pleasure to be a small part of this program. Thank you so much.
Y'all, at this time, Scott Meister's going to come up, and he's been very instrumental in getting a lot of these programs through. And Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today, to be a part of this celebration. Really, what this is a celebration. These projects many times takes years, 5 years, 10 years to complete with the permitting, the environmental compliance, and to come and finally have it be at fruition. See all the happy faces. Finally, we're done, and this is wonderful. We should all be proud, especially the partners here that have been involved. I have an easy part, really. I probably got the easiest part at all. I get to sit back and really help get the funding here, work with the state partners to recognize the project, and then you get to see the voters use it. And I think that's really who wins here. The community wins, but the voters really win. We're going to bring voters here to infrastructure. We're going to introduce them to the Selma community. And we've got to remember that those voters are also responsible for the funding. This mechanism through the Sportfish Restoration Fund is funded about 60% through voter fuel taxes. Okay, so about 60% of this project on the federal side was funded by the voters who are going to use this in the long run. So that user pay, user benefit model is pretty important for the program. And really public access to the water. Okay, we're seeing public access to the water go away in this country. Waterfront property is more and more expensive. It's really hard to secure these pieces and tracts of land for boating access and boating infrastructure projects. And so projects like these that conserve these long-standing tracts of land for boating infrastructure are very important. So again, we give kudos to the city and the partners for recognizing that. Across the country, I think it's important to know the competitiveness of this program. About 20 million or so a year goes out for boating infrastructure. Millions of dollars every year are not awarded because the projects don't rise to the level that this one does. This is a project that was awarded competitively through a competitive process. So I think that's, again, something the partners really should be proud of. So again, a wonderful day here for boaters, a wonderful day for the community of Selma. Thank you for the opportunity to come out and be a part of this, and thank you for the partners. Thank you.
Y'all, the first phase of this project, we were granted about, $500,000, pretty close to $500,000. That's through the city matching funds with Department of Conservation through the ADM programs and also through the boating infrastructure grants. So I'm telling you, there was a lot of pieces that were put together to do this first phase. And without the first phase, we wouldn't be going into the second phase. This pavilion all started by a small group of people that is a Selma cook-off. I don't know if you're familiar with, but most of you probably are, the Alabama Wildlife Federation has 12 cook-offs across the state. We raise funds for conservation. We raise funds for resource management and to educate outdoor classrooms for kids. And that money, our state board, who is led by Steve Forehand, that you'll hear from shortly, he's the president of our state organization, they came to the board 2 years ago and said, why don't we give back a portion of the funds we raise in each community back to conservation programs within the communities where those funds were raised. So Davis Henry, and Davis, stand up, and also the board, all the members of the cook-off board from Selma, please stand or raise your hand or something. I'm not sure many are here. Most of us are still working people, so they have jobs to keep, so they're not here today. But we started talking about, because this is about the time the social media pictures came out, we said, what can we do? So we said, well, why don't we just initiate and see what we can do about trying to get the marina dredged. So we go back to the state board and we give them a program and say, this is what we would like to do. And I'll never forget, is Jack Darnold here? He was going to come, but Jack Darnold stood up from the Birmingham cook-off and said, man, that's a great program. We're going to give y'all our funds. And then the next person stood up and said, hey, we're going to give you our funds. So lo and behold, every cook-off in the state said, we want to support that program itself. So I'm telling you, it's a selfish group of people who are concerned about one thing, and that's conservation of our natural resources. So, Mr. Goddard, I hate to tell you this, but you know we're way off schedule, and you got bureaucrats and you got politicians, and we will be off schedule. But
And we got Tim Wood.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Hey, and Newbie, by the way, happy birthday. So okay, I will call you out. You know I'm gonna get ahead of it. So we started putting funds together, and we visit with Big Daddy Laura, and that's where instead of dredging the river, what could we do after we dredge the Marina Basin and get docks in place? And that is, why don't we build something, and Tim Goddard came up with the idea of a tournament pavilion. This pavilion was built, we would love to attract professional bass tournaments. You got a slab here where an 18-wheeler can back his truck up and work out of. You've got an overhang where they can actually have the event staging areas. So there was a lot of thought that went into this process. We came up with many people that came to us and said, we want to participate. And you'll hear from them shortly. But y'all couldn't imagine the people that just gave of time. And the turf out here today is from South Dallas Turf Farm. Trace and Stan Wilson. They're saying, we thank you for what you're doing to the community. We're going to give you the turf. And we did. And they're right across the river. So they just have a long way to get over here when they go around. So the project has been absolutely outstanding, and I won't, if I can, I would say Bobby Massengale, stand up. Bobby Massengale had the task of putting all this together and getting it done, renovating the bathrooms, which hasn't been usable for about 20 years. Bobby, thank you for your efforts. And Bobby has even made donation of time to redo the bathrooms, and it's people like that who have helped make this program. We reap more benefits than what we actually had to pay for. Thank you, Bobby. So, Alabama Wildlife is excited to be part of this program, and I'm excited just because it's in Selma, Alabama, and in the Black Belt. At this time, I'm going to call on Leslie Sanders, if she will, to come back. She's one of our partners on the Pavillion. Where's Leslie? Here she is. If you will, come forward. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am extremely happy to be with you and be at the Pavillion this morning. Today we're not just cutting a ribbon, we're celebrating a place where everyone can come together and enjoy fishing and the great outdoors. I do want to mention that this is the 4th project that Alabama Power has worked with Bass to enhance the access points along Alabama's treasured waterways. We are grateful for this ongoing partnership, and we want to extend a sincere thank you to the Bass team. We've also been lucky enough to work with the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, CRIS, on 3 projects that piggyback on major renovations that they did to beautiful spots along other waterways so that even more people can enjoy, as Lance said, all of the treasured waterways that we have here in Alabama. These projects, just like this one, have been a real community effort with, as you've heard from Tim, people from all walks of life that pitch in. Private, public, non-profits, elected officials. We appreciate the Congresswoman's support. Everybody rolling up their sleeves and making it a special place. This Selma provision is no different, and we want to thank the Alabama Wildlife Federation for leading this one. At Alabama Power Company, our commitment to environmental stewardship in the communities is something that we take very seriously, and we're honored to serve the communities in this way and to be a part. It's part of the fabric of who we are as a company. It is a great place. This will be fabulous for fishing tournaments. If you're with the chamber or mayor, I think you've, as you go fishing and you go where the fish are, you've got the bait now. So for all those fishermen and fisherwomen that are in high school and other tournaments and things, you can now compete and you can add. And when you bring those tournaments, high school, they bring their mamas and their daddies and everybody. So this is a great economic development project for the city. A big thank you to everyone who made this happen. This pavilion is going to be a spot where special memories are made. And again, sincere thanks to everyone that has partnered. And it has been our pleasure and great honor to be a part of this. Thank you.
Y'all, another one of our major supporters was the, I guess you call it Alatom RC&D. Matter of fact, I ran across Newbie at church, and he kind of saw what we were doing, and he looked at me and he said, "You need some money." I said, "Oh, shit." Have we ever said you don't need money? So he called me back and he said, we kind of came up with a total at that point in time, and he said, "So is this amount what you need?" And I'm not going to give you any amount, said Newbie, but I said, "No, I thought it was 50,000. He said, "Oh, no, it wasn't. It was this." He knew exactly what it was, but he wanted to go a little fishing to see if I'd take a little less. But Newbie, thank you, and Judge, if you'll come forward, Nick Williams, and we thank you for what Alatom RC&D does. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here today. We are absolutely glad to be a part of this. I think we've been involved in some other Selma projects. I am with Alatom RC&D, and also the state RC&D and the national RC&D. So we are here to help any way we can. Maria is our local executive director for Alatom, and her and Jennifer do all the work there. So they take care of all the paperwork. Somebody, I think, might have been Tim or somebody mentioned paperwork earlier, but she'll be the one to take care of the paperwork. But I do thank you, Mayor, for allowing us to be here. All of your council, everyone that's involved. Thank you for what you do. And we don't hear enough about Selma. Would anybody agree with that? We just don't. We need to hear more about Selma. We need to hear more good things happen in Selma. And I'm looking forward to hearing that in the future. I've got a good friend that does a lot of bass fishing. I'm sure that he'll make a trip up here because he does a lot of fishing. So we appreciate everything that everybody's done. I know a lot of people have questions about what is RC&D. I used to wonder the same thing. Newbie can certainly fill you in more than I can, but it stands for Resource Conservation and Development. You say, what can we do? Almost anything. I tell people anything that's legal and ethical, we can probably do it. We are funded by the legislature. With that being said, got Senator Sanders. Where's he at? Stewart. I'm sorry. Stewart. Used to be Senator Sanders. Here's the guy. Sorry with him. Senator Stewart, would you like to say a couple words real quick? We could not do what we do. We couldn't do what we do without him. I don't think Representative Chestnut made it.
Good morning. I want to express my gratitude to RC&D. I just want to, on behalf of Rep. Chestnut as well, the part of the Selma Dallas County delegation, we can attest that money spent with RC&D is some of the best money that we can spend. And so we just want to thank you all for what you do to enhance the quality of life and eco-tourism in our rural communities, made possible through rural, public, and private partnerships. This standing pavilion plays a crucial role in enhancing community interactions and providing a space for cultural, recreational, and social activities, which are essential for improving the quality of life. Its presence will foster a sense of togetherness and offer all that come and visit a venue for recreation and events, contributing to the overall well-being and vibrancy of our community. Thank you.
Here's the Tuskegee University around his wrist. Another interesting story. Our national president for RC&D is William Hodge, who works for Tuskegee University. Absolutely. So we got a lot of local connections, but if we can ever help you, RC&D can ever help you. Of course, Newbie lives here locally. We're thankful for Newbie. Without Newbie, we couldn't do what we do. And without the legislature, we certainly wouldn't even exist. So thank you for allowing us to be a part of this project.
Mayor, you're up next. And as you're coming up, are there any city council people here? 'Cause I think there was some going on. Okay, excellent, thank you. Look, the working through the system with the city council and with the mayor's office was seamless. It was a much easier process to get this done than I ever would have imagined. Thank you for what y'all do, and thank you for your support. At this time, I'm gonna call on Mayor James Perkins to come to the podium. And if he finishes in 5 minutes, I'll grab some swampland for you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I intentionally left my notes, cell phone, and everything in the chair because I wanted to speak from my heart today, to just express how much I appreciate the support that everyone has provided for this project. There are too many individual organizations, let alone names, to start calling. But I do acknowledge everyone's support and participation. And Tim, I ask one thing of you, and that is sometime in the next week or so, if you would get me a full list so that I can formally and officially send a thank you note to all of the participants. So not just give yourselves a hand for what you've done. Thank you. And so my comments are these. Tim called me. And when he called, he said he had this idea, this vision to restore the boat ramps by dredging the river. And I said, when do we start and what do we need to do? And we got started on the project. And now we are here with the Pavillion. This represents economic development for our community. This represents the tourism component of economic development for our community. This represents another leg on the stool for economic development in our community. It is amazing how much we can do when we work together to get it done. And that's what has happened here. Even the media, you're showing up to help us tell the story is a critical piece of what we are doing and what we are accomplishing here. And I will say, as it relates to the good news for Selma, just yesterday we announced, the stabilization of the riverbank, just a mile or so down the river on the other side of the Edmund Pettus. That project was $1.7 million. While I was standing on the bridge yesterday with the colonel and his team from the Corps, we started talking about a $40 million Phase 2 project to stabilize further portions of the river. I've always said, and Jim Kerrigan here with the Airport Authority is my witness, that we have an opportunity to do something very special in logistics in this area, using water, air, and transportation systems, rail systems that we have. This is a major part of that development. I just felt a little rain, and so I'm not going to speak up a storm. I am going to stop. But I do want to just finally say this, because it was mentioned about the significance of Selma's history and what this really means to our community. Folks, Selma has done more for the rest of the world than we have been able to do for ourselves. We would not have been able to get this done alone. That's important to understand and to know, that even when the next phase of this takes place in the next few minutes, where there's a transfer of the title and Selma would take possession of this property, there's still a need for the Parks and Recreation Department to sustain and maintain what planning and development and all of you have made happen here today. And so since there are members of the council here, I'm going to ask y'all for a little more money to help with the maintenance of these properties. We have in Selma over 22 parks. Have, 12 people? We have a need for more people and more support. And so I'm encouraging all of us to put our heads together to figure out what is necessary for sustainability of the blessings that we are receiving here today and that we have received in our past. And if we do right by what we have received, I'm convinced that God will bless us with more. Somebody ought to say amen. Amen. So I'm stopping right there and saying, now, Tim, again, thank you for bringing us all together to make this happen. And thank you to the team that works administratively in Selma, the council, those local who have made this possible. And I say for all of our success, all of the challenges that we have experienced, and all the blessings along the way, I say to God be the glory. Thank you.
Judge Williams asked me if I would recognize a person that he felt that did not recognize us on his council. And I better do it because I got to go home, okay? Judge Johnny Jones, stand up. The judge has been on the RC&D council for many, many years, and I married his daughter, so I better make sure he's recognized.
I'm trying to hurry her up and get home.
At this time, I'm going to call on the president of the Alabama Wildlife Federation and our executive director, Tim Gottlieb, to come forward, please.
Mayor, if you would join us up front. As Tim Wood said, basically what we asked the mayor and the city council is let us take this bull by the horns, build this pavilion, and then we'll give it to you. Mayor, on behalf of the Alabama Wildlife Federation, that's your letter of transmittal, your certificate of occupancy. Just want you to know we passed the City of Selma inspector, and your 1-year builder's warranty. Mr. Mayor, this pavilion belongs to the City of Selma.
Thank you,
One more thing. We've got one more presentation. Mr. Mayor, I know that in your official capacity, you're accustomed to presenting keys to the city. You're going to be a recipient of a key today. This is your own key to the restroom.
This is the first time I think anyone has ever received a key to the toilet. Oh, thank you all so very much. This is really exciting. This is really a great day for us. And you know, there's so much in my mind and in my heart that I really want to say. But I'm going to pause. I'll save it for an individual. I do want that directory so that I can express personally how I really feel about this experience. So again, I say thank you so very much. Thank you. We received this. And we'll do our absolute best